If you want to start collecting football shirts, or if you're into collecting football shirts already, then this video is made for you. In this video, I'll share my biggest tips and tricks and advices onto how to collect football shirts actually, and I'll also share my biggest mistakes so you don't have to make them. I'm making this video because in my opinion, collecting football shirts is way more harder than you think, especially in the beginning. I'll separate this video into different chapters so you can skip ahead or rewatch a certain part at a later time. Let's start off with the first chapter, and that is how to collect. I think the topic of collecting is very well known. You just get yourself an item and then don't get rid of it, and get yourself more of those items and then don't get rid of those, and that is how you collect. Collecting football shirts is actually a bit different because normally you won't utilize the item that you're collecting. For example, you don't use the coins that you're collecting to pay for groceries, and you don't use your rare stamps that you're collecting to send out your Christmas cards. But with football shirts it is a bit different because in the end they are an item of clothing, which means that you can wear them to a match, to the gym, or just as an item of fashion. Whether you want to wear your shirts or just hang them and stock them and don't ever touch them again is really up to you. I don't have a recommendation. Just keep in mind that whenever you're wearing a football shirt, especially to maybe a football training or something like that, then they will get damaged much easier than when they're just hanging at home. The next part is actually what to collect, because the football shirt space can be a real jungle. Clubs nowadays release at least 3 new shirts each and every year, and I think they will continue to do so for a while. Then you have second-hand shirts, which are a lot of them. They're supplied massively. I mean, you could just go onto every single internet site like eBay and there will be hundreds, if not thousands, football shirts uploaded every single day. One of the biggest mistakes I made when I started collecting is that I would just go online or into a second-hand store and just hoard every single item that even looked like a football shirt. I didn't care for the size, so sometimes I wasn't even able to wear it. I didn't care for the quality, so maybe a name set was very damaged or there were some holes in it or mold, and I didn't care for the shirt to be authentic, which means that they don't have any value. The downside is that I actually didn't like those shirts quite fast after I bought them, and I wanted to get rid of them, and I mean, I didn't get my money back because they were either fake or way too small or in a bad status, which meant that I lost a lot of money. I got demotivated, so I'd highly recommend you to prioritize what shirts you want. You should consider for yourself which clubs do I want and which clubs do I not want in my collection. Do I want shirts from a certain country, from a certain club, from certain players, from a certain era, from a certain year, with a certain color? Just name it, whatever, but you have to decide what you want to collect, especially in the beginning. My recommendation is to make a top 20 or a top 10 list of shirts you want to add to your collection first, so you can have some kind of goal you're working towards, which will allow you to search, way more specific and don't get lost in this massive football shirt jungle. Another very important thing to reconsider is how am I going to pay for my new football shirt collecting hobby. Football shirts these days will cost you 90 euros for a standard replica and even more for a player fit ADV version. Of course, second-hand shirts are a bit cheaper, but there are more second-hand shirts than brand new shirts, which means the supply is massive and it's very easy to spend a lot of money on second-hand shirts as well by just buying a lot of them. Setting yourself a budget for every week or every month is very important to do so, especially in this time where we have inflation and everything is getting more and more expensive. You don't want to spend your hard-earned money on items of clothing when you really have to pay for groceries, gas or electricity. Some fun things to actually make yourself a budget is you can maybe use your money that you get from waiting tables, use your tips, set aside your tips that you get because they aren't part of your wages, so they're basically like extra income, so you use that extra income to buy football shirts. Another thing is you can maybe, check the receipt every time, see how much cash back you got and use that amount of cash back to invest in your hobby. I mean, you're basically getting the things that you needed anyway, but now for a cheaper price. So you would have lost the money anyway. Quick maths. So you can, use the money you saved to invest in your hobby. Sometimes it could be 20 cents, sometimes a couple of euros, but you know, start small of course. Another thing, and this is my recommendation, what I did is I personally started collecting. I already had a couple of football shirts, you know, a bit of money, so I decided this is going to be the thing that I'm working with. If I want to buy another shirt, I can use the money, or I can sell some of the shirts and use that money, you know, to combine it with the money I already have and buy new shirts. That's how I'm expanding my collection, and it also gives me a very good moment of realization. You know, whenever I'm purchasing a football shirt, I know I've worked hard for it, which makes me a bit more sensitive for my choosing. Let's put it that way. Then you have to wonder, well, I have set myself a budget, I know what shirts I want, but where do I get them? Basically, this is just free range. I would recommend you to start with second-hand shirts because they are a bit cheaper, but if you saved yourself a lot of money and you want to buy yourself a brand new shirt in an Adidas or Nike store, just be my guest. The downside of using second-hand sites and stores is that you don't know for sure whether a shirt is authentic. Of course, always ask for the product codes of the shirt, maybe ask for receipts, and whenever shirts are older, just compare pictures, check the reviews on the seller, stuff like that, because you don't want to get scammed when you're buying a football shirt. Luckily, I made some videos onto how to spot authentic shirts, so you can check those on my channel, and I will leave a link to it in my end screen. You can also use official sellers, of course, like Classic Football Shirts is a prime example. The downside is that those second-hand shirts are a bit more expensive. The positive side is they will give you a 100% guarantee that the shirt is authentic, so you know you're buying the real stuff. The only thing I wouldn't recommend using, I mean, please feel free to do so, but I won't use mystery boxes to, you know, upgrade your collection. Those companies are in it to make money, so they won't give you a very expensive shirt for a very low price, of course. Moving on to the next part, this isn't mandatory, but I would recommend you to do so, and that is logging your shirts. I personally have an Excel file where I will just type in the name set, the season from which the shirt is from, the year or the period when I bought it, the amount I bought it for, the value, the current value of the shirt, and especially the very important thing, you know, any special details about the shirt. For example, if you got a shirt for your birthday or from a family member or a friend, or maybe you bought a very cool shirt whenever you were on holiday in Italy, I think those details can add up to the sentimental value of a shirt. So I'd highly recommend you to write down those little details, you know, as a memory to where you got the shirt from or whom you got it from, because the sentimental value of a shirt is actually very, very important in my opinion. Once again, logging your shirts isn't mandatory. I didn't do it in the beginning, which meant that I had a lot of work to do at a certain time when I decided that I wanted to log my shirts. And one mistake I made is because I didn't start early, I forgot where I got some shirts or from whom I got them from, which is a bit painful because I do remember some shirts from when I was little, but I don't know for sure from whom I got them, which, you know, is a bit of a stain on that memory. So, you decided what shirts you want, you have the budget, you know where to find them, you actually purchase some shirts and you've logged them, very good. But now they're just sitting on this huge pile on your desk. Of course, you have to store your shirts. I personally would highly recommend you to get yourself a nice rack to hang your shirts on. A rack like this will cost you about 20 euros, and these little clothing hangers are about 50 cents. I can store about 200 shirts on this rack, which means that I've invested another extra 60 cents on every shirt, which sounds like a lot, but hear me out. If you have an expensive shirt, let's say a 90 euro shirt, and you fold it and put it in your closet and it gets moldy, or it gets holes from moths, or the sponsor gets damaged, then that shirt will drop in value from 90 to, let's say, 0, which means you lost 90 euros on just one shirt. If you had invested 60 cents, you could have saved yourself that money and kind of remained a value of 98 euros and 40 cents. So now those 60 cents sound like a really good investment, don't they? I would also highly recommend you to store your shirts in a room where there's enough light and enough fresh air coming in, you know, to prevent insects from getting into your shirts, which is a very nasty idea if I say it like that. And also to prevent the shirts from getting moldy. So I highly recommend you to, you know, often open the window or put them in a room where you often walk in and out. Don't store them in the attic in boxes where I don't want to know what happens to them. And that will conclude my biggest tips and tricks onto how to collect football shirts, and I hope they were of any help. Share your best tips and tricks in the comments down below so we can help each other out and maybe I can learn something from you. Let me know if you're collecting football shirts already or if you want to start your collection. Let me know what shirts you're collecting actually specifically, because I'm very curious to hear your collecting stories. If you liked this video, if this video was of any help, make sure you like this video. And subscribe to my channel for more football shirt related content. I'd like to thank you very much for watching to the end. And I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day. Bye bye.